Welcome to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. My name is Dave. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start the episode right now. Happy to have you here. Let's do this. All right, we're back. We're doing implementing project-based pricing for product services here on the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Again, thank you for pressing play. Thank you for being here. I would love to know where you're listening in this big world of ours. So go over to podcasteditingandsupport.com. Reach out to me. Let me know, hey, Dave, I'm listening in Ireland. I'm listening in England. I'm listening in Australia, Canada. Where are you listening? I would love to know. That would make me quite happy. I can see you in my stats, so I know you're listening. So I would just love to hear your voice. Completely selfishly, I'd just love to hear your voice because you're cool and I'd love to meet you. And I want to say thanks for listening to the show. First time here, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here. My name is Dave. I live in Ontario, Canada, near this big hill with lots of water called Niagara Falls. And I love podcasting and I love helping podcasters find editors and editors to find podcasters. It's what the show's all about. And I'm here for you. And I'm here to help you build a business that you'll love as an editor and support person, giving you the tools and introducing you to great people in the space who are doing what you want to do to encourage you to keep moving forward with your ideas. So thank you for being here. And this whole idea about pricing your services is very hard to talk about. Sometimes people are getting a little bit nervous about talking about money, and it makes you feel a little icky, like, ugh. So let's talk about it, and let's get it out there so that you can move forward with your business plan so that you can do what you love. If money's not your favorite thing to talk about, let's get it out of the way so you can focus on the things you want to do as a podcast editor and support person. Remember, we're going beyond the ums and ahs because anybody can do that. We're going to talk more about the services that we can offer to a fellow podcaster to make their job and their podcasting life easier by offloading some of that work onto our shoulders. We got you. We got you. So today we're going to look at, for the podcast editing and support businesses, we're going to talk about setting clear deliverables as an essential part to ensure that our clients are satisfied with hiring us and working with us. We're going to talk about managing our expectations and how to streamline our workflow so that we can get this all down pat and have a great service level to offer to podcasters. So thank you for pressing play. We're going to jump in by first talking about the fact that we really need to clearly define what the client is going to receive when they work with us. Yay, I'm a podcast editor. Okay, well, what does that mean? A lot of times podcasters don't know what they want, what they need, so you're going to have to kind of show them by showing them kind of like a nice buffet. Have you been to a nice buffet? You know, they have all these different choices of food, and you stand there with your empty tray and a plate. It's still warm because it came out of they washed it and it's still warm. You like touching it, right? It's kind of warm. And you're looking at this buffet going, like, if it was me, I'd start with the desserts because why wait and put that at the end? Why not put it at the beginning? I'm going to go to the dessert table. You help yourself, but I'm going to go hit that first. You have this choice. You can do whatever you want. You can make up your own plate. You can just have carrots if you want. Just carrots. I don't want anything else. Just carrots. You can do whatever you like. It's a buffet. Come back as often as you want. It's pretty cool. I love it. It's pretty interesting. Hopefully you have a chance to try a buffet sometime. But as podcast editors, we can offer a buffet of things that we do, and people can pick and choose the things that they need, and maybe there's stuff they don't need. So what's in your buffet as a podcast editor and support person? Is it, I take out ums and ahs? I take out ums and ahs. That's it? Well, that's not a buffet. That's a restaurant with one menu item, and not a lot of traffic come in for that. So maybe we need a little more options. So what are some of the options we can do? First, we could do some edited episodes. All right. So when we talk about editing episodes, there are, again, so many levels to this. Again, there's the ums and ahs. Yeah, granted. But there's so much more. We can just specify as podcast editors and support people the level of editing that we include, the basic edits. So removing the filler words, the long pauses, like that, removing the long pauses, and then some more advanced edits, because like adding the music, sound effects, or mastering. These are all part of the full production that we can offer to podcasters. We can also help with storytelling and crafting narratives, and on and on and on it goes from there. So for example, we need to clarify whether we will clean up audio quality, balance levels, and remove background noise. Is that what you're going to do? And then what else is a bonus on top of that? Think of the buffet. I want a little of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. So we offer edited episodes, but then put them out as menu items. What are they? What do you do? Don't just assume that the podcaster that reaches out to you understands what it means when you edit their episodes. The other thing we can offer is show notes. Now, show notes have many different meanings. Show notes to some people mean a blog post or an article on LinkedIn or on a blog site or on your website, a full article about the episode, not a transcription, not word for word account of what happened in the episode, but a well-formatted article, blog, that complements what you talked about on the show. Okay, so it's supplemental. It's there to counter the audio or video podcast that you have. It's additional content around the theme of what you talked about, but in different detail. That's one thing. Show notes can also mean transcriptions to some people. That is the word-for-word account of everything that was happened in the podcast. Dave said this, guest said that. Dave said this, guest said that. Website, link, book, title, thing, resource, blah, blah, blah. Word for word, every single word. Even if I say will show up in the transcription. That's a transcription. There's also show notes, which is what actually shows on your device when you press play. So for me, I listen on Spotify. I know you can come for me now. I listen on Spotify because I love music and I love podcasting. So one app gives me both. So simple. I love it. And it's where I listen the most. Now, when I press play on your podcast on Spotify, when I look at my phone, there should be some words there. The title of the episode and kind of what happened in the episode. Now, I have to admit, Dave's got his hand up here. I don't read your show notes on my phone because my phone is in my pocket. Very hard to read your phone when you can't see it. So I don't read your show notes. Maybe once every few days I'll look at it. My phone is in my pocket because I'm doing something. I don't stare at my phone like it's going to do something magical. I don't. I listen to podcasts in audio format. I'm kind of a dinosaur, I know. But that's because I have a job. I have other things that focus my attention on other than all of the fancy things in video. For me, it doesn't work. So your show notes, to me, I don't read them. But that doesn't mean they're not important. Having something in there that shows chapters, that's interesting. If you're going to have 35 different topics in your podcast because you chase lots of rabbits around your show, then you do need chapters so I can skip all the stuff I'm not interested in. That's one thing. That's a benefit. That can be in your show notes. You could have links. Links are always important. Links to books, links to websites, links to YouTube channels, whatever. That's interesting because if I want to know more, I want to go there. So if you say links in the show notes, then you better have a link in the show note. That's what we're talking about. So show notes are really important. It helps to kind of outline the scope of the show. We can add a lot of value by creating great show notes for our podcaster. We can take that off their shoulders so they don't have to worry about it. So it can be a brief summary. It could have timestamps. It could have key takeaways, links to resources. Anything that's mentioned in the podcast should be in your show notes so that people have a good sense of what's going on. So that's another reason for show notes. And we can clearly define, again, think buffet. Think of all of these choices. You just want carrots. Great. Here's the carrots. But if you want more than carrots, we offer that. And you need to kind of outline that for your clients when you're onboarding, when you're having conversations, when the kind of pitching them about your services. What do you provide around show notes? Do you know? And then the other thing would be around promotional materials, defining any deliverables that you can create. Now, audiograms are kind of fading away, but some people still do those. Social media graphics, YouTube thumbnails, teaser clips, short clip videos, on and on and on and on. These are all things that we can give as promotional materials to supplement the release of the podcast. What do you offer? What does the buffet table say where it says promotional materials? What do you offer? And do people know? Make sure they know. The other thing that we can clearly define as to what the client's going to receive from us would be around the file formats. So state to your podcaster what you're going to provide to them. So is it an MP3, which would be the audio file that would go to all the players, like Audible and Spotify and Amazon and Apple, all that stuff, right? So what format are you going to provide? MP3 would probably be, that's the main one for audio. But what about for like backups? Do you provide a WAV file, which is a more uncompressed audio file, larger in size, but not necessary for uploading to your podcast host like Libsyn or Podbean or Captivate or Buzzsprout? They want MP3s. So think about, what are you giving back to your clients? Is it video files? What kind of video file? What format? Make sure it's clearly defined what the client's going to receive from you when they hire you. The other thing that we need to talk about around the deliverables and what we're offering to our clients, it all comes back to specifying the quality standards for each of the things that we deliver to our clients. There are some set standards in podcasting, both video and audio and all of that, that are required, even down to graphics and graphic dimensions and size of file size and all of this stuff. There's some basics that we need to be abiding to, and you need to let your audience and your clients know what you're providing. So audio quality, we're going to set benchmarks for audio quality, such as the loudness of the file, normalizing standards. So there's a thing called LUFS, and basically the standard is 16 LUFS, so that your audio is on a similar level to another podcast or another audio file on the same platform. So if I'm listening to a song on Spotify and my volume is set at one level in my earbuds, and then I click over to your podcast, if it's dramatically quieter or super loud, it's going to really impact my listening experience. So we're all agreeing we're going to be around the 16 LUFS as the ultimate guide for podcasting. Now there's opinions, obviously. Everyone has an opinion, apparently. So people will give you other information on this. But in general terms, that's kind of the standard that we're all trying to meet, so that it's consistent from your show to my show to the song to Ariana Grande to this, to that, to this. It's all around the same frequency. Okay, so keep that in mind. This really helps. As well, some editing standards. So we need to detail what constitutes a clean edit. Now, what does this mean? Such as removing all the filler words versus leaving some in to maintain a conversational flow. Like, where's the meter? 0, no change, 100%, completely different podcast by the time we're done with it. Where is the meter on how our editing standards are? How much leniency do you have to take out crap when they get off on a tangent? It has nothing to do with the episode. If it's just not working, are you allowed to cut content? This all has to be arranged as part of the buffet approach to what we're doing as podcast editors. So what are the standards? Have you had that conversation? Another thing that affects both the podcaster and the podcast editing and support person comes around the turnaround time to produce the files. Now, we need to find how quickly clients can expect the finished episode returning to them or being posted after receiving the raw recordings from the host. How much time do we have? For instance, a standard timeline might be 3 to 5 business days, not weekends. Business days for a 60-minute episode. Okay, so as a guideline, 3 to 5 days. So if you hand it to me on Friday at 6 p.m., my time, don't expect it to be live on Monday morning at 6 a.m. That's not 3 business days, that's a weekend. So we need to understand that we're all humans, we all have lives, We love editing. We love supporting podcasters, but we also have these things called kids and grocery shopping and laundry and cleaning the house and shoveling snow. We all have these other things we got to do. So we're all humans at the end of the day, everyone. Please remember that. 3 to 5 business days for a 60-minute podcast episode. Do you have that written down? Does your clients know that? Make sure you have that clear at the very beginning. And then the last part, under specifying the quality standards for each of the deliverables that we provide, would go to consistency. Now, we need to ensure that all of the episodes adhere to some kind of branding elements or look, feel, tone, so that the intro and outro sequences and the background music are the same or meet the same standard or metric. We have to come up with what is agreeable as best practices to be consistent, so that episode 3 sounds like episode 33. And it's the same feel for the listeners. Again, it's all about the listeners at the end of the day. When we're working with clients, we really need to outline at the beginning kind of what happens if things fall apart. What happens if there's a change request? Listen, I know you edited the podcast. I know you spent lots of time on this, but can we take out this piece just this one time? Just one. Whoa. 2 more times, 5, 10, 25 times, just 25 more times. Can you, what is the boundary here for revisions, updates, changes to a complete finished episode that's delivered back to the client? Do we have this mapped out? Maybe you don't. So consider these things. We need a revision policy, something that clearly states how many rounds of revisions are included in your pricing per episode or per month, however you do this. For example, we can offer 1 round of minor edits like cutting additional content or adjusting volume levels without extra charge. What is your minimum maximum for revisions to a completed finished file delivered to your podcaster and they come back with a request? What's the minimum maximum that you'll accept? Is it clearly defined? Is it communicated? The other thing would be time frame for revisions. We need to establish deadlines for clients to request revisions. So example, so within 7 days of delivery, a change can happen. Then keep in mind, when is the podcast released? Is it released before the 7-day period? Because if it's released, it goes out in the world and we can change some things, but sometimes your podcast is downloaded to a phone and it lives on someone's device. I can't change that for you because it's a copy of the file on someone's phone. I can change what people listen to, but I can't change a downloaded file. So keep that in mind. We also need to think about the scope of the revisions, the things that are being asked of us to do. Specify what revisions entail, minor adjustments versus significant re-edits where you're completely blowing it up and starting over. That's a totally different thing. So we need to know what that is and how we communicate this. And if there's any additional costs, especially if it wasn't communicated to the editor that it wasn't what you wanted and now you're asking them to redo their entire work. Again, we only have a certain amount of days to get this done. So that's very important to understand. And then the client feedback process. What do you have in place? Do we have ways for us to communicate timestamps and say from the 2-minute, 35 seconds to the 3-minute and 32 second, this chunk I need to take it out? How do we communicate back and forth? What is our form of communication? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? A text message at 3 a.m., is that acceptable? Probably not. So how are you communicating and how are you making sure that everyone's happy at the end of the day? We need to outline the revision process and what are the limits to requested adjustments after the episode is finished and ready to be posted to go live. The next part in all of this is to include a timeline for delivery for each project component. We need to establish some milestones in the process of doing all of our edits for our clients so that we know where we're at, and we know if we're close or behind and timelines. So, for example, some milestones around the raw audio submission deadline from a client, the delivery date for the first cut of the edited episode to be reviewed by the client, and any deadlines for receiving client feedback and finalizing the podcast, especially if we, as the podcast editing and support person, are posting the episode to the hosting site, app to Blueberry, Spotify, all the different places, Captivate. If we're the ones actually uploading the file, we need to have final sign-off so they're not getting this nasty message saying, hey, why did you post that? That wasn't done yet. So we need to understand all these milestones. We can really leverage batch production as well. It's a great way for us to kind of incorporate this into our projects. If we're working on multiple episodes at once, outline staggered delivery dates to keep production on track so that we're not doing 10 episodes at once and all 10 are going live on the same day. Stagger those dates. It allows more time for feedback and review. It's very important. And we just need to communicate with each other around scheduling. We need to schedule some regular check-ins with our clients to update them on progress and address any concerns, get feedback on the process, make sure they're happy as customers, make sure that we're sharing what we need from them, and if they're missing their milestones and deadlines, schedule that into your time with your clients. When I hire you as a podcaster, I'm expecting to have time with you, not just drop files in a shared drive online and never speak with you. I need to have time with you. Make sure that's put into your workflow, into your calendar, and it's agreed upon between you and your podcaster that you're going to spend some quality time together. I got 4 additional tips for you as we ramp up and finish up today around setting clear deliverables for your podcast editing and support business. These tips are going to help you if things go bad between you and the person you're working with. And as podcasters, you should have these or ask for these. And as podcast editors, you should be providing these. You need to have this conversation. You need something written down and some sort of agreement so that everyone understands where they're at, what they're responsible for, who's accountable to who, and when. Documents that outline all the deliverables in a contract form or service agreement to avoid any misunderstandings. Everybody knows everyone's role in the process. Use written agreements. Also provide examples. Share examples of your work to illustrate what clients can expect in terms of the editing quality and style for your show. You could do this by just simply having your own podcast. Just a suggestion. It's a great way for people to understand what you deliver upon and what good looks like and sounds like to you as an editor because you're doing it, and here's some examples. Additional tip as well is to automate every workflow you can where possible. So use tools and templates in your digital audio workstation. For me, it's Audacity, there's GarageBand, there's a whole bunch of other ones. Set up templates to speed up your workflow so you're not starting from a blank page every time you come to work on your projects. Set up templates. This show, I have my intro, my outro, the music, and the voiceover. It's always set up, and all I do is record the middle part, kind of like an Oreo cookie. I have the chocolate top and the chocolate bottom, and I just add in the middle, and this is it. It's always set up for me, ready for the next episode. So set up templates. It's going to help you, and use things that make you faster. AI tools, there's a lot of great things out there. Automate whatever you can wherever possible. And then lastly, educate your clients on the deliverables. Offer some onboarding materials explaining what you do for clients and so they understand what goes into producing their podcast. Again, not every podcaster understands what's going on under the hood. Just like when I take my car in to get serviced, I'm not explaining to my service tech exactly what's wrong with my car. That's their job. That's why I'm paying them. So as podcast editors and support people, we need to explain a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes so that our podcaster will appreciate what's happening, but as well, they'll value our contributions to their podcast to make it better. So please educate your clients. Let them know what's happening behind the scenes so they can understand better the deliverables and everything that's required to meet the timelines that are set out and agreed upon. By clearly defining deliverables that we tailor to podcast editing and support services, you not only set realistic expectations, but you also build trust with your clients. And this clarity that we create ensures smoother collaboration. It reduces all of the requests to have revisions made and corrections made. And overall, it enhances the client's satisfaction and retention. Clients are going to love working with you when you deliver in consistent ways with the same quality and meeting their expectations time after time after time. And that's what we do as podcast editors and support people. So we're going to be wrapping up this little mini series around implementing project-based pricing here soon. And we're going to get back into our regular content. But thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for reaching out and leaving me messages and emails and stuff. I really appreciate it. I always love hearing from you. Thanks for being part of the podcast, and I love your feedback. What are you doing for your business, and how are you growing it? And what kind of milestones do you love to share with your clients? We'd love to hear. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.